Good evening and thank you for being with us. Porter Airlines is making a major investment at the Thunder Bay International Airport.
The Toronto-based airline is creating an aircraft maintenance base. And as Carmen Wong reports, the new operations in the north suggest continued economic growth for the region.
Porter Airlines is ready to land an aircraft maintenance base at the Thunder Bay Airport as of this February. The investment will help service its fleet of 29 aircraft, as well as create an additional 18 jobs in the city. President of Porter Airlines, Robert DeLuce, says the team of engineers is already being put together. The base will be located in an existing hangar at the airport, where the new team members will perform daily overnight maintenance on the airplanes that will return to service the following day. DeLuce says putting a base in Thunder Bay just made sense because the city is worth investing in.
The added opportunity here lies in the fact that there are so many good and experienced and talented individuals in the area who don't necessarily want to move to a larger city, and so having our facility here and tapping into that pool is really we're really excited about that.
And he's not the only one who's thrilled about this move. Airport President Ed Schmidtke says he feels grateful Porter chose Thunder Bay to situate a base because they have such a broad network.
Thunder Bay is a community of about 120,000 people competing with all of Porter's other destinations. For Porter to decide to put 18 technical, high-paid jobs in Thunder Bay is a big win, not just for the airport, but for the whole community.
The announcement comes a year after Porter opened a crew base for pilots and flight attendants. That move created at least 40 local jobs, and with the latest and largest increment, Porter will have created about 60 jobs here. Mayor Bill Morrow says although he can't be certain, Porter's investment represents a long-term commitment to the community.
Any expansion of flights to areas that people in Thunder Bay feel that perhaps we're not as well serviced as we'd like to be would be welcome news. Of course, the airlines need to make money before they're going to do that. But who knows what this may mean in the long-term future of Porter, of any of the other airlines that are servicing our community now.
Carmen Wong, TBT News.
The daughter of a man standing trial in connection with a 2017 double homicide has pleaded guilty to 2 charges of assault in that case and is no longer facing a murder charge. City police were called to a Carl Avenue home on July 1st, 2017, where they found the bodies of 50-year-old Robert Lloyd Gray and 22-year-old Corey Lee Campbell. Police later made 2 arrests in the case. 20-year-old Kaylee Loon was originally charged with 1 count of second-degree murder for Gray's death and 1 count of assault on Campbell. However, those charges were amended during a court hearing last Thursday to 2 counts of assault. Loon will return to court for her sentencing on February the 4th. Her father, 41-year-old Garnet Loon, has already been ordered to stand trial on 1 charge of second-degree murder and 1 charge of manslaughter related to the 2 deaths.
The 2019 budget review process is set to get underway tonight at City Hall. Tonight's meeting is dedicated to the presentation of Thunder Bay's long-term financial overview.
Was lame duck.
Will provide councillors with a 5-year financial outlook, offering a prediction of future tax levy increases. However, the actual numbers often come in much lower than those initial estimates. For example, 2 years ago, administration predicted a 4.19% gross increase, but the final 2018 tax levy was eventually whittled down to 3.13%. Then last year, staff warned the 2019 increase could come in at more than 5%. But when the proposed budget was released last week, it featured a 3.25% jump. That number will likely change further over the coming weeks before the final 2019 budget is ratified next month. The budget process continues over the next 3 weeks. Members of the public are invited to make deputations to council on Thursday. Councillors will begin combing over the budget line by line next week.
The Thunder Bay Police Services Board is taking a big step towards reconciliation. It will publicly acknowledge the existence of systemic racism in the police service and the board during a reconciliation circle to be held this weekend. The public acknowledgement follows 2 reports, one by Independent Police Review Director Jerry McNeely, who found systemic racism within the police service, and another by Senator Maurice Sinclair that found the police board failed to address the concerns about policing by the Indigenous community. Chair of the police board, Selena Reitberger, says she hopes the initiative will help garner positive change. Police board members, Chief Sylvie Hoth and First Nation members will all attend the gathering Sunday. The public's also welcome to join in. Reitberger says this is a step in the right direction.
The system is set up that is causing the problems. And I can tell you from a year on the Police Services Board, it was very frustrating to try and move forward in certain ways because of the way the system is set up. We're hoping to hear some novel ideas. I mean, we know what best practices are elsewhere, but this is tailored to Thunder Bay. So if you've got an idea that nobody's thought about, great, that's what we want to hear. And there's no bad ideas, there's no bad questions, so come on out.
The Acknowledgement and Reconciliation Circle will take place at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon at the Kanachihi Treatment Centre on D Street.
Protests against TransCanada's Coastal GasLink project in British Columbia have gained national attention. And here in Thunder Bay, people rallied outside Federal Minister Patty Hajdu's office in a show of solidarity. The winter weather didn't stop around 30 protesters from lobbying on behalf of the Wet'suwet'en people. Inside, the group was greeted by Hajdu's staff, who took notes for the minister. Indigenous rights and the environment were key topics for the supporters, who say they were shocked at the actions being taken to allow the pipeline to continue. Lana Ray teaches Indigenous learning at Lakehead University and says the tactics used on First Nations people in BC are despicable.
Indigenous peoples on unceded territory have the right to protect and govern and occupy their land. So from my perspective, as well as from the perspective of the highest court in Canada, the actions that are occurring are illegal.
I think it's important for people across the country to stand in solidarity with them, to honor that they're doing that, and to say we stand with you. The climate's important, Indigenous sovereignty is important, all of our land is important.
The protests were among dozens held across the country today. We'll have more on the pipeline protests a little later on in the News Hour.
A project that was announced back in May aimed at turning Thunder Bay into the new tissue transplant hub for all of Ontario has been put on hold with no start date in sight. The expansion at RegenMed was supposed to begin earlier this year, but the company continues to wait for the green light from the Ford government. Alana Pickrell has more.
A news conference back in May brought exciting news from the former Wynne government for the city. It was announced that RegenMed would become the hub for all donated tissue in Ontario, combining 3 centers into one location. The Thunder Bay facility was to handle the preparation, storage, and distribution of all tissue donated in the province for transplant purposes, including skin, heart valve, bone, and connective tissue. The project would also create 27 new jobs, and the expansion was expected to generate nearly $10 million in economic activity during the construction phase. However, when the Ford government came into power, the project came to a halt. RegenMed Executive Director David Stazenko says this pause was to be expected, but right now he has no reason to believe it won't move forward.
There was a lot of work, many years of consultants' reports that went into making the decision, and we have every hope and every expectation that the new government will move forward with this. It's expected that they have to figure out a spending program, and so all provincial programs have been on hold since the new government came into being, and we're just waiting now to find out when the new government is going to move forward with the capital project and the expansion.
Although Stazenko isn't concerned about the project being pulled from the city at this point, other people involved are starting to have some doubts. Mayor Bill Morrow was a minister in the former Liberal government when the announcement was made at RegenMed.
It's my understanding that that commitment that we made about 9 months ago has not yet been acted on. So we're concerned. I don't know that that means it's happening or it's not happening, but the fact that it hasn't happened yet is a bit of a cause for concern, and we're aware of it, and we're going to do our best to talk to the powers that be now provincially to see if we can't get them to act on that commitment.
For the last few months, it has been a waiting game for the company and for the city. However, Stazenko says they have a meeting with the new government on February 5th. The Ministry of Health has not responded to our inquiries about the status of the tissue bank. Alana Pickrell, TBT News.
The Northern Ontario School of Medicine has found a new dean and CEO. Dr. Sarita Verma has been appointed by NOSUM's board of directors. She's currently the vice president of the Association of Faculties of Medicine of Canada, and she previously served as deputy dean of the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Toronto. Verma trained as a lawyer before becoming a family physician in 1991. She says she's grateful for the opportunity to lead the med school and continue the momentum created in the past 15 years. Founding Dean Dr. Roger Strasser will officially pass over the reins to Verma on July 1st.
A woman has been found dead inside a clothing donation bin in Toronto. Police say she died when she became trapped in the drop-off chute. And as Scott Lightfoot reports, the tragic incident is unfortunately not all that unusual.
A crew arrived just before 10:30 this morning to remove a clothing donation box behind the high-rise at 730 Dover Court Road. Just hours earlier, this was the site where a 35-year-old woman lost her life.
It sounded a horrible situation. Can't imagine.
First responders were called just before 2 a.m. when someone heard the woman screaming for help, stuck halfway inside the box. By the time paramedics arrived on scene, the woman had no vital signs, and she was pronounced dead shortly after.
We heard sirens all night.
Neighbors say it's a common sight to see people going through the clothing donation boxes in this area at night.
These bins have been around the buildings for a while. And my mom lives up the street and we see it all the time, especially in the evening. If we're walking down, if someone happens to drop something off or happens to have a bag or anything with clothes, we'll see them come and open it up.
It's getting colder, so people need coats, jackets, hats, mitts, that kind of stuff.
But neighbors also say this box was a relatively new addition to the neighborhood, and it had double doors. The metal hinge you can see was cut in an attempt to free the victim.
It's a very, very sad story.
Toronto's mayor says he's directing staff to review clothing donation boxes after this morning's incident. On New Year's Day, a 34-year-old man died in a similar incident in Vancouver. It's believed at least 8 people have died in clothing donation boxes across Canada since 2015.
I think it is extremely important in light of what's happened now that we should examine the safety implications of these boxes, and they're set up in a way to make it difficult for people to have access into the box, to the inside of the box, but obviously not safe enough.
Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
An iconic hotel in Thunder Bay is looking to regain some of its former glory. The former Shoreline Motor Hotel is now the Midtown Inn after a shakeup in both management and ownership. And as Corey Nordstrom reports, the last 4 months have been about changing the way people see the hotel.
The exterior has already gone through a partial facelift, but the Midtown Inn is in the midst of a full rebrand. With the Shoreline Hotel now a thing of the past, General Manager Ken Alott has big plans for the inn, but getting rid of the old image was first up on his to-do list.
New ownership, we figured, because of the stigma around the Shoreline Hotel, we had to do something aggressive, like changing the name, changing the appearance of the hotel. A new beginning, I guess.
Since taking over management in August, it has been out with the old and in with the new, but it's still taking time to work on the way people see the hotel.
No one knows where Midtown Inn is, so we're like, it's the old Shoreline. And they're like, I don't know if I want to stay there. So we're still battling the negative stigma.
The 60-year-old building is home to 70 rooms, half of them now having new mattresses, linens, and furniture as part of a first-year refresher plan, with the other half being completed by summer. Alott also manages the Pier 61 bar upstairs. He's done away with the DJ and has been working to change the atmosphere completely, and says things will be quite different under his management.
We're more focused on the hotel. Hotel first, bar will complement the hotel. We're hoping to get some live bands in, have people have a good time.
Future plans for the Midtown Inn include gutting rooms to the bone with new bathrooms, paint schemes, and windows, even completely demolishing and recreating some rooms to have a completely new look and feel for next year.
I want the Midtown Inn to be a place where, people can sit and relax and, spend a night and feel comfortable.
Corey Nordstrom, TVT News.